What's up, everybody? It's Spencer Alessi, and this is the Esports Narrative. Oh man, do we have such a good episode this time. Talking with Classic, he's a Rocket League streamer. Talking about the best practices for growing an amazing Twitch stream and an awesome community. We talk about so many good things, like is it more important to be really good at a game or to be funny and entertaining? We talk about, should you focus on one game or do you focus on playing a bunch of different games to build up your brand or your community? We talk about his competitiveness and his rank in Rocket League and how he got started into video games in the first place. He shares with us some of his thoughts and what he did well over his streaming career in the last 9 months, and he compares his first week to his last week and some things that are important when starting a stream and building out your stream. We talk about overlays and OBS settings and the overall presentation of your stream and how he thinks it should be done and how he's been successful doing it. We talk about the amount of time needed to spend that you need to spend outside of the stream to work on building up your community, to build up your brand. We talk about the biggest thing that hold new streamers back, talk about some of his biggest pet peeves, his favorite moments streaming, his most memorable moment, who he thinks the nicest person in Rocket League is, and so much more. You guys are super gonna love this episode. I know I enjoyed recording it. Classic is such a nice dude. He's such a nice guy to talk to. Do me a favor. We're going to do something really cool for him. And what we're going to do is I want everyone to use the hashtag RaidClassic on Twitter. And when you listen to this episode, use the hashtag RaidClassic, tag TechSpence, tag Esports Narrative, and tag Classic_RL on Twitter. Let's give him some love. Send him some follows. Check out his Twitch stream. Make sure you follow him there. Check him out at least. You know, if you like him, if you think he's entertaining, give him a follow. You know, hook him up with that follow, and you know, show him some love. Show him some love for being on this episode, and most importantly, would love to create a community just like Classic was able to do. So, share your feedback on Twitter. Leave me a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps me a lot. Helps me get visibility, helps more people find my show and what I'm doing. Helps validate what I'm doing and that you like what I'm putting out there. And the last piece is that I will be shouting out people who leave reviews on Apple Podcasts. So leave a review, leave a rating. I will shout you out on the next episode. I'll shout everybody out who leaves a rating and review. And I'm probably going to do some random prize drawings too for people who leave reviews. So get in those reviews, leave me a comment, shout me out on Twitter, let me know your feedback on this episode and future episodes or previous episodes. Really would enjoy your feedback. I enjoyed recording this episode. We had a lot of fun and have some really awesome little tidbits that I pick out of this episode. And without further ado, let's get into the show. Hello. Good morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to episode 48 of the Esports Narrative. I am your host, Spencer Alessi, and this is the podcast that's all about the exploration of competitive video gaming and the passionate communities that make it so exciting. Tonight's guest is a streamer, a Rocket League gamer. I've seen him play Fortnite. He's all up in the esports and gaming world. His name is Classic. He is at Classic_RL on Twitter and on Twitch and on YouTube. Classic, man, how's it going? This is a long time coming. I know we've been in touch for a while now, and super excited to have you here and chat and kind of catch up. So thanks for coming.
Thanks for inviting me. Really glad to finally be a part of this show. I've been following it for, like you just said, like a couple months. So it's really cool to be a part of it, you know?
Yeah, and back when we first got in contact, you were a student, you were studying video games, and you told me that you have a minor in video game study and a major in psychology, which I think is super interesting when you think about pairing the two. You finished your degree in December, so congrats on that. all the while
Thank you.
growing your stream. And so, really, first, I'm curious about how you got into video games, like your earliest video game memories. What did that look like for you growing up?
I pretty much played video games like for as far as I can remember. I had a good old Nintendo 64 when I was younger. It was actually a gift for my dad, but I ended up playing probably like 100 times more than him.
Hmm.
And yeah, I didn't really care when we actually received it because I didn't know what that world was going to be and how it would like basically change my life. But I do remember playing a lot of Super Smash Bros, a lot of Mario 64, and these kind of things. Yeah, but mostly 64. When I was really young, about like 4 or 5 years old, something like that, maybe six, around that age. So I pretty much grew up with it.
And when did you first discover like streaming, and who was the first streamer that you remember watching?
Actually, it was not that long ago. Um, well, like a couple of years, but certainly not at the start of Twitch. And it was related to the Hearthstone scene because I was big into Hearthstone initially. Uh, and I was following Krippardian from YouTube, and he kept telling this thing called Twitch where he was going live, and we could go see him play and stuff. So eventually, I just tried it from going from YouTube, and I just went to see what that was like, and I really enjoyed the fact that you could talk with the person. And obviously, when you're in big streams like Crips, it's a bit harder. So I kind of moved after that and basically hopped on a couple streams. But really, the first one would be Crip, and then followed probably by Raynad. But I've never was a huge viewer because of like simply the time it takes. But I really always enjoy the platform. That's for sure.
So when was it were you thinking, or if you can remember, when was the time or the period where you were like, hey, maybe I'll try this streaming thing? Like when did it first come to mind as something that you might be interested in doing?
When actually I was studying video games like 3.5 years ago, that it popped into my mind because I really like Hearthstone because I started with Hearthstone, and I could talk about it for like hours, and I didn't really have a lot of friends in real life who were into Hearthstone. So I was like, oh, maybe I could try this, like if there's something you love so much, try and make something out of it, try to create something for it. So I tried Hearthstone while I was finishing my minor. Didn't work out too well, but I got hooked about Twitch as a platform from the broadcaster's side, that's for sure. And then I came back like 10 months ago or so, and then went into Rocket League.
So you got into Rocket League. That's what I think, you're known for on your Twitch, in your Twitch
Yeah.
community and stuff like that. So why Rocket League, and how did you first kind of get into the Rocket League scene?
I chose Rocket League because at that moment it was the only like obvious choice for me because it's a game that really like I get sucked into and really provides like genuine reactions when I score like goals that I find amazing. It it's really natural. Like a cry is gonna come out. Like it's so visceral is the word that I want to use for Rocket League
Mhm.
for me. Like when a good play occurs, it's really hard for me not to react, even when I'm not streaming. I remember when I was still living with my parents, I couldn't play like past their bedtime because I couldn't refrain myself from getting loud because I like the game so much,
Yeah, of
So
course.
I was like, well, that's it, that's gonna be the game that I'm gonna stream. I'm so emotional playing it. It's gonna be perfect. So that's
Do you
why I
think
got into Rocket League.
Yeah, so it was kind of the emotion and the excitement, and you felt like that excitement would translate into kind of like building a brand and a community around, you're streaming.
Exactly. It would create a content that would be genuine and interesting to watch, I think.
Right.
And it was also the game that I was the best at that moment. So
Yeah.
it also always like factors in, you know?
Yeah, I think
Like
that's
it's kind of
super I
important.
think that's super important advice for people who are looking to build up their stream or start. It's like exactly like you said, it's pick a game that you really enjoy playing and something that you get excited about, because when you get excited, funny moments happen, awesome, insane moments happen, and you can really build off of that in your community, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you pick a game where you're like totally trash, I want to say, but like to start, it's a bit rough because people don't really know you initially. They don't really relate to the struggle you're having. So I feel like, and it's all subjective. It's like my view of Twitch, but the good thing with Twitch is that it's different for every broadcaster. But starting with a game you're kind of confident to talk about for hours because you know it um, basically in and out is a really good tool to get past that initial like 0 viewers, 2 viewers average when you start off. Because everyone who's going to start Twitch, you're going to start at 0, like everyone does, unless you're already known or something. But the majority of us started with barely any chat interaction, so you have to somehow still provide content. And playing a game you're very like at ease with and you know in and out will definitely help you at least describe what you do, why you do things and stuff, because you're already like decent at it. So
Hmm.
it's gonna help to like create content out of its own. And like learning could work too, but it wasn't what I really felt like doing initially. It was the game that I was the best at and that I knew the most and would get basically the most reaction. So it was like a no-brainer for me to go for Rocket League.
Now, do you think it's more important to be really good at a game or to be funny and entertaining, like when you're unknown and you're just first starting out streaming?
It okay. It really depends. If you're completely unknown, the fact like pro players sometimes don't have uh, a great streaming experience in the sense that like their streams are not as good as some other streamers that do that for a living, but they're so good that it doesn't matter. People will watch them nonetheless because they're so damn good at the game. So I would say
Hmm.
if you're actually insane, it's better to be insane at a game. But the thing is that it's so few people that I will say if you're only like good, you you'll have to work on being also entertaining. You really have to be like in that top 0.001% of the player base if you want people to come only for your gameplay. So I really feel like a mix of both is the ideal.
What about games when you're first starting out? And I'm sure you went through this. Is Do you focus on one game? Like, should you focus on one game? You focused a lot on Rocket League, and I see you here, playing Fortnite here and there. I don't know if you play anything else, but do you think it's important to focus on just one game, or if the rules that you laid out already apply, you think it's okay to be flexible and play other games?
This is a great question that is really difficult to answer. I wish I knew the exact good answer. I think eventually playing one game to start, I think, is a good thing to at least establish a couple of like core viewers, if that makes sense. Like establish regulars that they know what content you're gonna provide and they like that content, so they're going to come back. And then you can kind of start building a relationship that will go beyond that one game because you're going to start to know these people. When you talk every day, you get to know their job, what they like, what they dislike, and then it's much easier to switch to something else because they relate to you, so they're going to stay for you. But when you start, at least that's how I feel, if you're all over the place, I feel like it's very difficult for anyone to come in, like really get that kind of relationship that they'll follow you whatever you play. So
Hmm.
it it's very different for every broadcaster. I used to like only stream Rocket League for months. It was the only game I was streaming. Now I'm kind of trying to implement a way to play multiple games, because eventually anyone who plays 6 hours a day of the same game, as much as you love the game, eventually you're going to burn out. Like it's almost impossible to never burn out
Mm.
if you play that much to a single game. So there are ways to go about it, though, to try and make the transition smoother. So I think, and it's going to be different for every stream, but what we do in my channel is basically I'm going to start playing Rocket League every single stream. It's going to always be Rocket League. That way, people know that when they start, they're going to see the content that they kind of follow me for, that they like. But what I'm doing now is I basically get them involved in the choice of the game we're going to play later with a straw poll. Super simple. And people can vote there. And recently, Fortnite has been winning a lot. So what I do is I play Rocket League for the first 4 hours approximately, and then we switch to the most voted game for like the last two. That way, you can kind of get that relationship with your viewers, that the game doesn't really matter, quote unquote, and that it's more about the relationship, while still being able to provide what they were looking for when they followed you. It's kind of a
Yeah.
of an in between, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, absolutely. So what I hear you saying is that it's about depth, not width. There's a saying that it's more important. It's better to have 100 raging fans than to have a million fans that are occasional viewers or kind of like either okay fans. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, in the sense that they're there but not often, not really. Is that
Yeah.
what you mean? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh definitely. That definitely. And I'd rather like have the problem right now of people saying, "Oh, I wish you were playing Rocket League," which does happen. And it's kind of fair for them to expect Rocket League to a certain point, because I played it for so long and I still play it. Um, but eventually, if you really want to make streaming as a career, or like something that will develop into something more, I feel like playing only one single game, like it's almost impossible. Or you're gonna burn out eventually,
Mhm.
and that time for burning out can be a year, can be 2 years, but you're still gonna hit a wall eventually. And I wouldn't say I have quite hit the wall yet, because I still love Rocket League and it's still my favorite game by far. But I'm starting to play kind of a mix, just to make sure that my viewers first of all get more kind of content, because like when a new game come out, like people are hyped for it. They want to they want to watch their favorite streamer play it. So I feel like playing Fortnite in that sense really provides them with some value, at the same time as giving them what they followed initially. So that's the way I found was the best for me. It might not be the best for everyone, but it really worked out. And like you said, it's more about like a deep relationship with a couple people that will follow you no matter what, than having like 1,000 people but they don't show up, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like,
So what are the other most voted games that you see in your straw polls when you're streaming?
okay, so Fortnite is definitely up there. It wins almost every day, because it's like we're in the new battle royale hype right now.
Hmm.
Overwatch is also pretty up there, usually. And sometimes I also played a couple games like Getting Over It, because it's a great like small game to stream. And
Right.
I'm really emotional, so like that kind of frustrating game, like it gets to me, you know.
Yeah,
It
of course.
it gets to me. So that was popular too. We tried a bit of Undertale. Like we're doing a bunch of mix-ups, but the ones that really do work are Fortnite and Overwatch, because they also bring a lot of emotion out of me. And I think it's one of my strength is that I'm when I play, I'm really intense, if that makes sense. So playing competitive games like Fortnite,
Mhm.
where you're in that final 1v1 situation where it's all of or nothing. And 98 people died except you two. It is all on you to get that win, like that is an amount of stress that really gets to me. And I feel like that is what makes it entertaining, and I think that's why people vote for it.
So, how competitive are you?
In life, in general?
In life or in video games, however.
Unhealthily competitive, if I may. Like it's
Nice.
actually it's one of my qualities and also one of my weaknesses.
Do you
Like,
think that helps you with build up your community because you're so competitive? You think that is a positive quality for developing your community?
I do think streaming wise it helps me, yes, because it brings out the emotion out of me, because I want to win so bad. But I've always been like that in every aspect of my life. I used to play a lot of soccer
Mhm.
competitively in my life, and I would die for that ball. Like it's like I'm gonna go get there, and I don't care if I have to like die in the process. If that, like, as a metaphor.
Mhm.
Um, when I play board games with my friends and my girlfriend, sometimes they're like, "Hey, you classic, gotta calm down. It's only a game. Like it's okay. Like we don't care." And I'm like, "No, but it's in the rules. You don't understand." And like, yeah, I'm so competitive, like in every aspect.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and it's encouraging to hear someone else describe it the way I would because um, at my day job, we have a Christmas party every year, and we play these cheesy games. Like one of them was you had to you had candy canes, or you had to hold a candy cane out of your mouth, and you had to like hook other candy canes. It was some crazy game, and
Okay.
I got like super competitive at it, and it was like a family thing. So my wife was there, and she went and she got like a certain number, and then I was the last one to go, and I was like hell bent on beating everyone, including my wife. And I'm like, I will, and I did. Naturally. But
Of
I'm
course.
I'm competitive to a fault. I'm the same with you, so I definitely feel you with that. So, what's your rank in Rocket League?
The highest I've been is champion 2, and right now I hover like around champion. I'm a very inconsistent player. Some days I'm gonna play like really good, and some days I'm gonna be a total noob. But I would say I hover around like champion 1, champion 2 in the 3's queue, which is like the regular competitive queue.
Hmm. Which is a ode to your competitiveness. I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it would be very easy to just kind of settle for lower ranks, but you seem like someone who seems like they are grinding out, you know, ranked games and stuff like that. Would that be correct?
Oh, definitely. Like every one of my favorite games ever have a ranking system, and I'm always playing in those ranked modes. Like there's something I don't understand is like people who play casuals, like, and they're like, "Oh, but I'm just like not saying it's bad, but it's something that I don't relate to." They're like, "Oh, I'm only want to like relax and play a couple games, and like I don't want to try hard." And I'm like, "What?
I know.
What?"
Doesn't that
Like
drive you crazy?
I'm trying. Yeah, it does. It actually does. I don't understand that. I don't. I'm like, okay, I kind of get what you mean, but that's not fun.
Uh
Like,
huh.
well, I always have to like beat myself. Like, I'm in competition, like, against
Yeah,
myself.
it's like if you're not playing against
And
someone, what's the point? It's like
yeah, exactly. What if you're not trying to win? Why even play? That's how I feel.
exactly
That's how I
play to
feel.
win. Play to win.
Exactly. Like, it's okay. I'm not a sore loser, but like I care so much about the win, but not because I hate losing, but really because I like to surpass myself, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. What I want to talk a little bit about your progress since you started streaming. So, if you would compare like your first day or your first week streaming to where you are today. Now, you said you've been streaming consistently for what, 10 months now?
Around 10 months, yeah. I started in June of June 2017. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, or like 9, 10, around like 9, 10.
So I'd like to hear the if you could compare, contrast the first week streaming to like this week streaming. Compare the two and tell us a little bit of like the progress, how it's different or things you might have learned.
Yeah, sure. So there's definitely a lot of differences. First of all, in my overlays, I feel like I'm pretty confident with the one I have right now. It's not the most insane out of this world one, but it's fairly simple and I like it. So this is something that did get better. My all the technical aspects, my audio is better, my video quality is better because I took time to actually tweak my settings in OBS to make sure I can deliver good content technical wise. And my confidence and calm on stream, like that stress initially, when you start streaming, at least for me, I was super stressed. And it was something that was not really natural initially, but now it's much more natural. I really kind of enjoy that moment, get into discussions with my viewers with a confidence that I would talk to my friends, like in the same vein that I would talk with a friend over a beer, you know. And initially, it's kind of weird because you're the only one talking, and it kind of takes a while to get used to the fact that you're basically talking for 7 hours, not alone because people answer you, but you're still the only one talking with your voice. So it's kind of weird initially, and you have to like get used to that, you know. And how I behave on stream is not how I behave off stream, in the sense that when someone asks me like the tiniest question on stream, I'm gonna give out such a lengthy answer because I'm the only one talking. So I'm gonna go deep and give a lot of details, but in regular life, regular conversations, I would be annoying as hell because I would never shut up. You know, like taking that extra step to be a better streamer, and that you have to give lengthy answers and realize that if you don't talk, well, the stream is going to be silent because you're the only one, you know.
Right.
So that definitely did improve. I'm much more relaxed, much more confident. The quality has upgraded for sure, and it all takes like a lot of time. It takes so much time to
How
get
how
better and have everything perfect.
yeah. How important are your overlays, your OBS settings, like the overall presentation of your stream? Like when you're first starting out, how important is it that you just get everything right and tweak everything and make sure it's good, as opposed to just like, kind of like just starting and building community? Like what do you think are the most important things to start with? And then like what can you build on as you develop your community and your programming?
Great question. The first thing, like the most important thing, is to start. Like that is the most important thing. Everything else doesn't matter if you don't start.
Yeah,
So
such good
like
advice.
just do it. Like you don't have a cam, you don't have, just at least start. And gradually you can up the quality of everything, because anyway, when you start, no one's going to watch you, no one cares, because and it's a kind of a blessing in disguise. I'm very happy that now people are starting to like see my channel, because now I'm way prouder of what my channel looks like right now than what it looked like 9 months ago. 9 months ago, I'm not ashamed because I started, so I'm proud of like the progress I did, but it was not good. It was really not good because you're starting. No one instantly becomes great at something. That doesn't exist. People work hard and get better with a little bit of progress every day. So, my advice is to simply start. The second advice I would say is overlays don't matter, but video and audio quality do. So, if you have to focus on something, at least try to get a smooth experience for the viewer, a smooth video quality, 60 FPS if possible. I mean, it should be mandatory. Um, and at least like a threshold of decent audio quality. Audio is more often than not an overlooked thing in small streams, because I try to like watch a lot of small streams, try to learn from them, try to see if there are hidden gems, because like some people are definitely great, but they're new, so they don't have a big following. So I try to find there, and I would say the most consistent thing that really sucks for like the lower end of streams is the audio. Music too loud, music too aggressive. We hear everything that's on the road. You feel like there's an airplane in your room. It's
Right. You got a
insane.
fan next to your microphone. It's like,
Exactly. And I'm like, wow, how can you expect people to endure that, quote unquote? I mean, shout out to them. They're streaming, so at least they started. That's a good thing. But audio quality and video quality should be the first things. Overlay really don't matter that much. I think a webcam does help. There are a lot of successful streamers without them, but if someone would ask me if I would recommend one or not, I would say get one. But if you're extremely shy and it really doesn't fit with you, you could have some success without it. But I feel like it's going to be harder. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But for for the record, my like I said, my strength is like my emotions and like authenticity. So if I don't have a webcam showing my reactions, I feel like it takes away one of my key strengths. So if you're hilarious and like you're actually really really damn funny, you couldn't make it without a webcam, because
Mhm.
you're gonna attract people with your voice, with your jokes. But that is not really who I am. I'm not saying I'm boring, but I'm not hilarious 24/7.
Mhm.
So I feel like the webcam really did help me. But the overlays, I really feel like they don't really matter. Like they do, but it should not be the first thing you should focus on. You should focus on them once everything else is running to like a decent quality.
So, what's been the most important thing for you that's helped you grow your stream and your community?
My consistency at working my ass off almost every day would be the major takeaway. I work extremely hard on like Twitter networking. Like that is something that is definitely also overlooked in a bunch of small streams. And when people say networking, like a bunch of people don't really know what this means or don't know how to go about it. And it's not like going for big streamers and say, "Oh, can you please shout me out?" or can we do follow for follow? That is not networking. Like networking is making genuine relationships. Like go towards small streams and don't advertise your stream. Talk to them and make friends with them. And the thing is, you're going to learn so much from them anyways, and you're going to build relationships, and eventually they might become or not a viewer. And it's okay if they don't become one. Like you don't have to go there expecting something in return. But the more you give, the more you're going to receive. So definitely that helped. The fact that I established a schedule early on and I never derived from it. I said when I was at school, I couldn't stream as much because of having a job and being in university takes a shit ton of time.
Mhm.
But I
Do you
said,
feel like
okay, yeah,
do you
go
feel
ahead.
like do you feel like that's I feel like you're gonna get to the point. Apologize for interrupting there, but I think it's important because do you feel like it was important to have that consistent schedule?
uh, Insanely important, I think. I So yeah, exactly. It's so important, and people think it doesn't matter, but it really does. Being there at the same time at the same day for multiple reasons. Um, so what I did is I tried to like fit my classes schedule so I could have 2 free days a week. And I said, okay, I'm gonna stream every Tuesday, every Thursday from this hour to that hour every week. And I missed, I think, one streaming day because I was like really, really sick. And streaming when you're sick is basically impossible because you have to talk so much.
Mhm.
So I basically missed, I think, one day. So it's really like my consistency really helped a lot, and having a set schedule is so so important. And for two reasons. First of all, for the viewer side, it's easier to know when this person's going to be live. It's easier to say like, oh, if I can finish my course really quick, I know Classic still streams for 2 hours more, so I can try to cram my course and then go sit down and watch him. That's a thing that happens. So if people don't know when you're live, they can't predict anything. So you're pretty much at the mercy of coincidence, which you do not want. And the second thing is having a set schedule is going to force yourself to constantly be live on days you said you would. So it's going to kind of give you that little kick that some people might need to get online, if that makes sense. Because you said you were going to be there, so you better have to be there. If not for the viewers, for yourself, you know?
So how much time do you spend outside of your stream time working on your stream and your community?
Right now, a ton of outside. I would say at least an hour daily, working on Twitter, Discord, and stuff like that. I'm streaming like around 6 hours per day, and I would say on those days I have maybe 30 to an hour off stream, quote unquote, work that I do for it. And on weekends, a bit less because usually I work on weekends, so I don't have that much time to then spend on it.
Mhm.
But like a ton of time. And when I started, it was like almost even more because I had to adjust like all the technical sides, all the technical aspects of OBS and stuff, and that takes so much time. So I
Mhm.
would say like hours daily. It's insane. Like it's kind of close to an obsession, and I think you need that if you really want to grow, quote unquote.
Yeah, I've always had a barometer of like, if I'm willing to do something until 4 in the morning, or if I'm willing to stay up until 4 in the morning or 6 in the morning, or working it all night, all day and into the morning, then that's kind of been my barometer of something that I'm interested in or passionate about or excited about. I don't know if that's the same kind of thing that you're thinking.
Yeah, usually I try to get a decent sleep schedule because I have to like really be like dynamic and
Sure,
have
sure.
like being there. So I try to go to bed early, but it's really in the sense of like I'm constantly thinking about it. Like to a
Right.
point where it's difficult to do other things. I went even like kind of overboard initially and I had to adapt myself to eventually like try to let it go and like try to relax and not I don't need to be like 24/7 on it. I can put my phone down, but initially it was really difficult. Especially when you start to grow because you're like finally after months I'm getting some great feedback. People
Mhm.
enjoy that. So you kind of not get addicted but close to it, that in the fact that you're like, oh, this is so great, I want to be there for them because they're finally there for me. So but
Yeah, exactly.
initially it's rough, but you have to learn to like put the phone down. But yeah, hours, like it's the one thing I put my focus on. And when I was at
Yeah.
school, I was in class and I would still be like on Twitter, on Discord, working on my things. Not saying it's a good thing as a student, but it's still what happened. So
Sure. So let's do a couple rapid fire questions.
yeah.
What's what's the biggest thing that holds new streamers back?
Consistency and technical qualities, not the
What's your
person.
Gotcha. What's your biggest pet peeve when it comes to streaming?
Something that happened today. When one thing works perfectly one day, you change nothing, then you start your stream the next day and it doesn't work. That infuriates me.
Do you try and rationalize that, or do you just like chalk it up to being like, wow, it's just how it is, or like how do you rationalize that?
It is difficult because like the example of today was song requests. They were not working with Spotify and they were working yesterday and I changed nothing. So it's kind of very difficult and kind of breaks the mood and you're like, damn,
So
why?
was that like a technical thing?
Yeah, somehow my chatbot could not pick up. the Spotify requests. So I had to like do a bunch of like restarting and stuff. It eventually
Yep.
worked, but this is something that really infuriates me because it's kind of out of your control.
Yeah, you bring up a good thing, and something else I thought of is like from like a theory standpoint, I'm curious if you've ever had the same experience. Like you try some sort of tactic or strategy in your stream to like get people engaged or something like that, and it works one day but not the next. Have you ever experienced that?
Oh yes, that definitely does happen, and it's difficult because you interact with human beings. So one day people like can really feel the vibe of like the new tactics you're trying, but then the other day, I don't know, people are tired or they're like not concentrated or stuff. Because like a lot of people watch me actually like when they're at work or when they're doing something or as a background. So not everyone is 100% focused. So on some days it won't work because it requires too much attention and like stuff like that. So yeah, that definitely
Gotcha.
happens, and it's difficult to know if it is it on my side. Is it because I didn't do it properly, or is it because it was simply bad timing? It's super difficult because, like I said, you interact with human beings, and everyone is different every day. There's some consistency, but at the end of the day, we all have mood swings. If that makes sense.
Hmm. What's your favorite thing about streaming?
The interaction. People are actually amazing. I feel so blessed by the people in my community. Like one of some of the nicest people I've ever met. And there's like this stigma around Twitch that Twitch chat is like kind of retarded or like toxic and stuff. And it
Hmm.
can happen on big events and stuff. But my community actually has been insanely kind to me and insanely kind to anyone that joins it. So I'm really grateful for that. That is my favorite thing about my stream.
Do you feel like your Twitch chat specifically, and then I have two questions. It's kind of a two-part question. Do you feel like Twitch chat in general, like if you go into somebody's chat, that it's reflective of the personality of the streamer? And then for yours, do you feel like your chat or your community is reflective of you as a person and like your personality and your values and your the things you care about?
It's a good question. It's kind of hard to tell. It depends on what the streamer allows. So sometimes it's not gonna reflect themselves, but it's gonna reflect at least what they think is okay. Um if you get into a chat that is hyper toxic to anyone who comes in that does not know about the game, the streamer might not be that way, but he's allowing that in his own chat. You have the control of your chat, and if you allow that, then I feel like it's kind of the image you broadcast to the people. It might not be you, but it's still what you project. And to come to my stream, I think I don't know. It's hard to say. Maybe people are so kind because I'm a kind person, but I feel like that would take away credit of those people who probably simply found like a place where they could be themselves and they're just genuine nice people. If that makes
Do
sense.
you feel like people are nice to you because you're Canadian and they feel bad?
I think so. You kind of feel bad because Canadians are so kind, so they're like, "Damn, I can't be rude to that poor fella."
At least you're a Quebecian and not an Ottawan. I mean, hey, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
funny
people
because
people are extra nice.
I mean I think Canadians are super nice. I take a snowmobiling trip every year up north of Montreal,
Ooh.
several hours north of Montreal, up near Saint Zenon. Um,
Okay, yeah.
we go up near as far north as like Parent and Casey. We go as far east as Lake Latuque or almost to Quebec City almost.
Okay, yeah, I feel.
So, but when we go more west, we always meet, and even when we go around, Montreal and things like that, we'll be able to pick up on the people who are have the Quebec, French, and who
Yeah.
have the Ottawan accent, and it's really interesting to see just how different the dialect is with just a short amount of distance, up there.
Oh, well, even closer than that, people in Montreal and like in the suburbs around Montreal, it's
Yeah.
two completely different things. You can live in Montreal without even speaking a word of French.
Mhm.
And it's the further away you get from Montreal, the more impossible it is to only get away
Yeah.
with English.
And
So it's
I
really different.
yeah, I heard that I've heard a number of people say that Montreal is as diverse as a city, if not more, than something like New York City, with all of the ethnicities and the backgrounds and in the lineage of different families. You know, in New York City, of Irish and Italian, and you have Chinatown and things like that. And I've heard that Montreal is similar to that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I wouldn't say like compared to like New York and stuff, because I've never been to New York, but definitely Montreal is very, very diverse.
So getting back to off on that little tangent,
Yeah.
what's what's been the most memorable moment for you streaming so far?
When I tried to, I mean, not try because I succeeded. When I wanted to go to the Rocket League Championship Series World Tournament, basically the RLCS World Championship, where it's the end of the season for Rocket League this season. So it's basically um, the championship where it's the finals. You know, like it's in Washington and people play for the big prize to end the season on. And I couldn't afford to go there because like they told us I think 3 weeks in advance, and Washington is kind of far from where I live, turns out. So I was kind of conflicted in doing this thing called donation goals because I hated asking money from my community, because at the end of the day, as much as making a living out of it would be cool, I don't like asking money from my community. But they kind of convinced me, and like they were like, "Classic, we know you don't do it for this reason, and like we're trusting you that if we try to help you, you're gonna use it for that specific thing." And we did get to the goal, and people helped me get there, and I had one of the greatest weekends of my life because of that, because that event was absolutely insane.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Who's that?
that was fantastic.
That's really cool to have such a supportive community like that for sure.
Yeah, yeah. They are insane. They're so kind.
Who's the nicest person in, let's say, let's leave it specific to Rocket League.
Yeah.
Who's the nicest person in Rocket League?
That's difficult to only pick one person.
Like the
Um
entire Rocket League community that you know. Who's the nicest?
Oh my god.
Putting you on the
I will
spot.
make some yeah, I will make some people mad, but I think there's a girl named Cassidy who's helped multiple streams. She helped me get to LAN. We actually shared a Airbnb over there. She's incredibly nice, and yeah, I would have to pick her.
Awesome. What's her Twitter handle?
Good question. Just give me a second. Don't want to make like there's a bunch of nice people. Like I don't want to sound like there's only her, but like if I had to pick one person, it would be her. Cassidy, so Cassidy 0520.
Cool. Awesome. Now this next question before we wrap up is related to the Rocket League esports scene.
Yeah.
What do you want to see in the Rocket League esports scene in the future as a fan and somebody who is super passionate about Rocket League? What do you want to see in the future of Rocket League esports?
I want to see team cosmetics like Overwatch League just released. So I don't know if you're familiar with that, but
Mm-hmm.
basically, if you're rooting for Cloud9, you can use a Cloud9 skin in game. I want that. That's the thing I think would help Rocket League the most esports wise. I don't mind if like they're paid for. I would be actually glad if I could pay for it, and it would help fund the prize pool of the RLCS. I would be happy to do so, and I think it really will help because they added the RLRS recently, which I think is a fantastic addition to the whole esports scene for Rocket League. So I think they're in a good way. but that would be the one thing that would help people relate to it more. Probably get them a bit more cash for prize pools, which is always a good thing. Maybe a bit more cash for the players themselves. I don't know how they would go about that thing, but if a small part of the revenue coming off from that skin could help the players from this team, I would be very, very for that. And I think that would really help overall. But other than that, I think they're kind of on a good track right now.
Yeah, I'm a New York Excelsior fan. NYXL hashtag ever upward. Let's go New York. Get this.
I'll have to go.
Get this London Spitfire garbage out of here.
Yeah, we'll have to get in the fight though, because I'm a big fan of the LA Valiant. I have one of my friend, actually the person who introduced me to the Esports narrative podcast is now the video editor of the LA Valiant. He's called Scribbles.
Scribbles, yeah.
Yeah, and he introduced me to your content, and he's now part of that. And I'm like, oh, all right, that's gonna be my team.
Yeah, Scribbles is really cool. He's been very supportive of the podcast. Shout out to Scribbles. Appreciate you. Appreciate you turning people on to the podcast, and he's doing an excellent job with his work, and definitely a shout out to him. But sorry, New York is better. So if you were not streaming, if you weren't spending 6 hours, multiple times a day streaming, what would you be doing? What would Classic be doing?
Good question. Probably I would play video games, but a bit less, that's for sure. I would like one side of me that I like my stream starts to know is I really like the whole investing side of things, the whole like finance and stuff. I really like that. So I would probably try to get into that, or I would probably try and do more research around video games and psychology at the university level, because that's something I was trying to aim initially before trying to go on Twitch.
Yeah, and that's something that we really didn't even get a chance to touch on, and something we'll have to talk about again on the podcast is the whole video game and intersection of psychology and maybe you're even hinting at the mental health piece of it a little bit. So that's something that's super interesting to me.
It is. It's those two subjects, like psychology and video games, are so closely related on so many levels that it kind of makes me wonder why it's not talked about more. Like on the sense of mental health, like you said, like it's no secret that a lot of like a part of the gaming community suffers a lot from mental health issues, and also that on the esports side, why do we care about it? It's so simple, but it's so fantastic at the same time. Like psychology is so great. Same things for also why do you enjoy progression system so much? Why do you enjoy playing this game so much more than this other game? And it's all things that we dived in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, silly French. I think we dove in. That relates to that, and it's so fantastic. And I could talk about that for hours, but let's not start on that because we're still going to be here in an hour.
I know, right? So closing out, I just have 2 more questions that I want to ask you. One is related to your personal goals, and I'm really curious, what's your biggest goal? And then in one word, what is standing between you and that biggest goal of yours?
So I'm not sure if I could say biggest, but at least my goal is to be able to make a living out of Twitch. Definitely. If I could quit my part-time job to do Twitch as a job, I feel like I would be successful. I don't need to like rack up 10,000 average viewers or have that big sponsorship and make millions. I don't really care about that. What I do want though is being able to pay my bills with it. I would feel successful if I could do that. And the one thing between today and this moment would be time. In one word.
Awesome. How do you think streamers enrich the lives of others?
it's different for every stream. The one I would say about mine is the interaction. I feel like people in my stream can really be who they are, and they can really like get social interaction if that like not everyone is skilled at speaking to other people in real life. As bad as that sound, that's the truth. And it's always been like that, but with Twitch it's now an outlet for those people. Not saying everyone on Twitch is like socially awkward or so, not even close, but it's still an outlet for people to get some kind of social interaction and have great relationships that are really really damn close to real friendship, and like real, almost like sometimes family, because you know so much about them. And I feel like it enriches like the lives of those people with, yes, that sense of community that is not always present in everyone's life, like that feeling of really being a part of something.
Awesome. I really like that. I really like how you mentioned the community and just being a part of something and having some people who are like-minded, kind of interacting together and doing something together. I think it helps people in times of need, in times of weakness, and you know, going through tough times. You never know what someone is going through, and just having someone there to talk to, even if it's not related to anything that they're going through,
Oh,
is
it means so
is
much. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely the most important thing, and I'll keep, like, I cannot mention it enough. Like community, like I've said it like what, 5 times now. It's it's still like it's the one thing that I feel like where Twitch really really succeeds more than YouTube and more than any other platform, is that really that sense of real building and being a part of something like all together.
So where can people connect with you? Give us some shout outs. If you want to mention anybody, thank whoever, wherever, tell people where they can connect with you, and the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can follow me on Twitter at classic_RL. It's pretty much my handle for everything. So twitch.tv/classicRL. Those are the two main ways to reach me. I want to give a special shout out to my girlfriend, who is insanely supportive of what I do. It's something to try to go for your like goals and dreams, but she's been insanely supportive. She helps me, she gives me feedback, she's always there. So definitely huge thanks to her, and a huge thanks to one of my longest time, like, I don't want to make any jealous in my community because I really do love all of them, but there's this one guy who's been there for so long. He's the one who watched me the most. He's always been there, he's always listening to my feedbacks, and he's called Toothless Hero. He's one of the kindest person I've ever met. So I want to give a special shout out to him. He's also on the stream grind. So if you guys can go give him a follow, you should do. He's one of the kindest person I've ever met.
Awesome. Classic. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation about streaming, and kind of like we talked a lot about some like best practices and like how to get started and like things you should focus on. And I'm really excited to hear the feedback from this. So for everyone listening, if you made it this far in the episode, give us a shout out on Twitter at Classic and I on Twitter, and let us know what you think about this episode. If you like more of this kind of episode where we go into some best practices with somebody like a player or a streamer. If you got value from this at all, add us on Twitter and, leave us your feedback, your comments on this. Because I think, like Classic said, one of the things that's super important is community. It's something that I'm trying to build and create with my podcast and the content that I'm putting out. So I appreciate everybody listening this far, and I appreciate you, Classic, for coming on and sharing your experiences and your journey of streaming and some of the things that have worked for you. And wish you tremendous success going forward, and wish you many happy years streaming. And I can't wait to talk to you again on the podcast. And then, I'm super excited to see, you explode even more in popularity and grow your community, and just see how much of a passionate and awesome community you have. So thank you for your time tonight, and we really, really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Same to you. I wish tremendous success to this podcast. I'm a huge podcast listener, so it's really a blast to be part of this journey with you. And I've been following for months, and I'm going to keep following. Keep up the great content, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Awesome. Thanks, Classic. Appreciate it. And with that, I just want to remind everyone, if this all goes as planned, this show is just the beginning. Thank you, listeners. I really appreciate you. It would mean the world to me if you subscribed and shared the show. Your word of mouth is amazing.